Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Blunt. I moved over from the hearing room. Mostly I wanted to show Director Bunch that I have art from the Wiseman Art Gallery in Minnesota on loan in my office. And I appreciate your leadership, Secretary Bunch. And I know the goal number 4 of the Smithsonian Institution's strategic plan discusses the need to understand and impact 21st century audiences. And it reads exactly this. It says, we will let the complete American story in person and online in all our museums, exhibits, and programs, and across them with a focus on all Americans nationally and locally. To me, the American Women's History Museum and the National American Latino Museum both embody the spirit of that goal. Do you agree?
I do indeed agree. I think it's crucially important that my career has really been about expanding the narrative and making sure we have a diverse, inclusive history. And I think that's really always been the goal of the Smithsonian under my leadership. So these museums can help us achieve that goal.
So I understand you have this backlog and you're being very prudent about how to manage the museums. We appreciate that. But when the African American Museum started up, we're so, of course, involved in all of this. Did you have this kind of pushback and you have advice for all of us as we move forward on these 2 museums?
I think it's important to recognize that there is the great need to help the Smithsonian improve its backlog. But my notion has always been that with the right resources and creative leadership, the Smithsonian can do several things at once. And it's really important to me to make sure that we maintain all that we have, but we're also open to the possibility of new.
Very good. And I think that's really important for us to remember. In my opening statement, I talked about how even during the Great Depression, that Roosevelt thought ahead and did the WPA. I have one of those Smithsonian murals actually in my personal office here, and thought ahead to the WPA murals, that arts were a big part of us not losing our culture, losing our soul. And so that's what I want to remember as we look at doing this during the middle of this economic crisis and pandemic. I turn to Ms. Longoria. Thank you so much for being here. I gave you some nice words at the beginning. And
thank you.
Could you talk about how we depict our world to generations to come? It's going to matter to kids, Latino kids. It's going to matter to little girls that they see that they are represented with their own museum.
Yes, thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Thank you for all of your work. Look, representation matters if we've learned anything. And it's a twofold benefit because it's important for everyone to see themselves reflected in our history and in our art so they can feel that their experiences are seen and understood, so they can be inspired to similar feats by people who look like them and sound like them. So that's for young little girls, and it's also for Latinos everywhere. But the second part is it educates others about us. Okay, and quality representation teaches us about each other. So for some folks who don't have a Latino in their town, learning about journalist Gwen Eiffel or labor rights leader Dolores Huerta, it teaches them about the values of our community, the values and strength of women, and it shares who we are and what we care about. So I think it's more importantly allows us to better understand and appreciate diverse viewpoints and shared priorities as Americans. That's what we're missing right now, I think, in our society. So those museums are not for women and for Latinos. It's going to be for everybody.
And we do appreciate the work that Secretary Bunch has done in terms of bringing these exhibits in. But I think many of us would be so excited to actually get these museums. We've been talking about them for so long. I really appreciate also you brought up this statue, and maybe I'll end with this. You're somehow competing, Ms. Longoria, with Mark Zuckerberg and Dorsey in a judiciary hearing I have going on at the same time, but I prioritized you.
Thank you.
I love that you brought up that statue, because I don't know that everyone knows about this, that this was presented to Congress in 1921 with the suffragettes. And of course, it didn't have full representation of all the suffragettes, but it had this inscription that read, "Justice, not favor. Men their rights and nothing more, women their rights and nothing less." and it was these three women, and it got put in the basement of the Senate as an attempt to erase, especially the words that were at the bottom of the statute that were considered blasphemous at the time. And I do want you to know, as we have gotten this statute out of the basement, our first step, and are bringing it up and restoring it where it belongs. But I want to let you know that, and thank you for your work, and thank you to all the witnesses. I know we're not going to be able to do a second round because of the vote schedule and other things, but thank you so much to all of you. I'm really excited to get moving and look forward to working with the Smithsonian. So
thank you, Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you, Senator.